Hey everyone, and welcome to my August TBR for the Magical Readathon and the Graphics-A-Thon. This is actually my second time filming this, so apologies that I'm not upstairs or anything else. I just didn't enjoy the footage that I had the first time around. It was proving impossible to edit, so this is a refilm. And just to quickly go over why I am not using TBR Assemble this month as well, it's because of the strikes going on in Hollywood. Because my TBR game is based entirely around the MCU and things like this, I did not want to be promoting struck work or anything, which is entirely possible with TBR Assemble. So instead, I decided to completely choose my TBR myself this month. I think with that out of the way, it's now time to get into the actual TBR. As always with the Magical Readathon, I am going with the Necromancer career, which means I need to have, I think it is 9 different prompts, if I remember rightly. It's quite a few. Either way, I'm just going to start with animal studies and just go right the way through, because that's going to be the easiest way to do this. So for animal studies, I only needed an O, which means I had to do an introduction to domestic creatures, which was a pet pick. And I do not have a pet whatsoever. I have never really owned pets. I've had fish, but that's about it. I don't have any pets right now, so instead I used G's pet picks instead that she had on Instagram. My 4 choices were for 1, Sandman Volume 7, I think it is. The second choice I had was Gwenpool Strikes Back. For the third choice I had Marvel Rising, and then the fourth one was Low Volume 4. And as you can see by this clip, the pet pick chose the fourth option, which means I'm going to be reading Low Volume 4. If you don't know what Low is about, it is a futuristic sci-fi set around one family. They have all been separated, and they're slowly now coming back together again and rescuing each other from their various horrendous ways of living. And they are also trying to find a planet where humanity can live on, because our planet has been completely and utterly destroyed, and everyone is basically going into, well, it's the end of the world, we'll do whatever we want, but this family wants to save everyone. So that's what it's about. I've really enjoyed the first 3 volumes, so I'm really excited for this next one to see what I think about it. Then for the subject of spells and incantations, I need to get a Q, which means I need to do all 3 levels. So for the O, I need to do Learn the Charm Short Trip, which means to read a graphic novel or a manga. So I've gone for Bloodstained Teeth Volume 2, and this one is following on obviously from the first one, and we are following a vampire who has been turning people for money into vampires for centuries now, and the Vampire Council have decided that enough's enough, and he's going to have to try and actually go around and kill all of these people that he's turned, because they're becoming a bit of a problem. I really enjoyed the first one. The first one was actually my surprise pick from Hannah from Ladder M's Waypoint Books Full Moon subscription box. I'll have the vlog linked up above so you can see my full thoughts on the box and the full explanation for the box and everything else. She surprised me with the book for that box, and I absolutely loved it. And Bloodstained Teeth Volume 2 was the book that I picked for the Full Moon box for this month, and I am so excited to read this. I can't really show you anything in here because it's all quite sort of gory and everything else, but it is very much a sort of, there we go, I can show you that. It's a very sort of psychedelic but also very dark vampire comic, and I love the first volume, so I cannot wait to read this one. Turns out actually I only need to do 2 parts to this, not 3. I was looking at conjuration. Anyway, for the Q prompt, I need to do the incantation of Black Flame, which is to read a book with a black cover or a book with flames on the cover. So I've gone for Library of the Unwritten by AJ Hackwith, which you can see is a black cover, and there's also flames around the outside. So this one has been described as being a bit like Good Omens, in the sense that we are following like hell and demons and that kind of thing, but we are actually following the head librarian of hell, who looks after the Library of the Unwritten, which is where all of the unwritten books or unfinished books go when their authors abandon them for whatever reason. And what happens when one of the heroes from one of these books escapes and gets into the real world, she has to try and track them down before anything bad can happen. This has been described as being very much like Good Omens, which really intrigues me, seeing as I am a massive Good Omens fan. I've just been watching season 2, which I can actually talk about because Neil Gaiman has explicitly stated he wants people to talk about it while he's striking and the actors are striking and everything else. You should all go watch it. It's incredible. It broke my heart, but it made me laugh in so many places and everything else. I absolutely loved it. Go watch it. And I'm just really obsessed with all things heaven, hell and Good Omens based at this point, so when I heard that this was supposed to be very much like Good Omens, I'm very much in for it. Also, Hannah from Ladder M, speaking of her again, she has raved about this book as well, so I really want to give it a go and see what I think about it. I was supposed to read it in July but ran out of time, and I'm kind of glad I didn't read it now because it fits this prompt so well. Then on to Conjuration. I actually do need to get the full D levels on this one, so for the O prompt, which is ghostly etiquette, is to read a court or royal book, so I've gone for A Conjuring of Light by V. Schwab. This chunker is the last one in the Dark Shade of Magic series, or the original Dark Shade of Magic series I should say, following Kel, Lila, Rye and Alucard, and they are dealing with being in a portal world where there are 4 separate Londons: Red London, Black London, White London, Grey London, and what happens when White London is trying to take over the other Londons and this kind of thing. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that is my basic like summary of the series. But I've been loving rereading this series in preparation for Fragile Threads of Power, which is out next month in September. I'm so ridiculously excited, you have no idea. I'm so excited to be like continuing on with this series and just finishing up with this final book. The last one ended on a cliffhanger and I forgot about the cliffhanger. I know how it all ends, but I still was like shocked by the cliffhanger and was like, I need to find out everything that's going to happen now. But anyway, I am so excited to read this. This is a chunker, but so excited, cannot wait. And the reason why this is counting for a court/royal book is because Kel and Rye are both princes of Arns, which is where Red London, where they are from, is based in, and I am definitely counting it. I shouldn't have taken as long as I did to figure out that this was a court book or like a royal book. Definitely shouldn't have taken as long as I did, but there we go, I did. Either way, I can't wait to squeeze this on, and I'm so excited to read it, even if it is really, really big and it's a weapon that I'm scared of. I've done it before, I'm going to do it again, very excited. For Q, it is Ghostly Communications, which is to read a book set or inspired by a different country or culture, so I'm going for Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi because I really needed a short book after A Conjuring of Light because it is massive and I just really wanted a short book. And this one is the prequel to Pet. I don't really know much about this one further than the fact that we are dealing with Bitter, who is chosen to attend Eucalyptus, a special school where she can focus on her painting, but outside of this haven the streets are filled with protests against the deep injustices that grip the city. I don't really know much else. I've just heard people absolutely raving about this series, and Abby of Pelennor specifically raving about this one, and she actually gifted me this book, so thank you very much, Abby, for gifting me this, and I am very excited to now read it. And then for D in Conjuration, I need to read a Free Spirit, which is an indie or self-published book, so I'm going for The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starlin. Now this one was the other book I got for this month's full moon subscription box, and this is the surprise book that Hannah gave me. This is a gothic sort of horror-y fantasy type thing where we are dealing with Jane, who has decided that she's going to have a marriage of convenience so she can carry on studying and doing whatever the hell she wants, but it turns out the man she's picked is not all that he seems, and when she goes to the crumbling family manor that he told her to not go to, then she finds out that the bold, courageous surgeon that she married is gone, and in his place is a terrified, paranoid man who cannot tell reality from nightmare, and Jane tries to figure out what exactly is going on, and this kind of thing. I've heard really, really good things about this one. I will admit I'm a little bit nervous because this is more of like a gothic type story that I've never really read before, but I completely and utterly trust Hannah on this. She hasn't steered me wrong so far, so very excited if a little bit nervous for this one. And the reason why I'm counting it as an indie or self-published book is because this isn't published by like the big 3 publishers. This is actually published by Titan, who aren't, as far as I can tell, part of any of the big 3. They are quite a big publisher, but they are not like the absolutely huge ones, so fingers crossed that counts. If not, someone please tell me and I will find something else, but fingers crossed this counts as an indie. Fingers crossed. Either way, very excited to read it. Then for Restoration, I need the O level, which means I need to learn how to induce sleep, which means I need to start a book before bed. And my one problem with this is if I start a book before I go to bed, I finish the book. So I've had to choose a comic for this one, and for that I've gone for Demon Days by Peach Momoko. This is what happens with the Marvel Universe when you add Japanese folklore to it, and it's very much inspired by Japanese folklore and this kind of thing. I am so excited to read this. The cover and everything else is absolutely gorgeous. Peach Momoko did the cover, the story, and the insides as well, so you can see that this is going to be absolutely stunning, and I'm hoping that because it's a comic, it's gonna, like, even if I do finish it just before I go to sleep, it's not going to keep me up too long. This is my theory. Don't know if it's going to work, but fingers crossed it does. Fingers crossed, that's all I've got. Just, otherwise I'm going to have a very sleepless night. I mean, worth it, but I don't really want a sleepless night. I'm not getting enough sleep as it is, so hopefully this won't keep me up too late. Fingers crossed if I'm lucky. And then my final subject is demonology, and for this I need an O, which is an introduction to low-level demons. So I need to read the first book that I see on Instagram or Goodreads. And as you can see from this clip, I scrolled through. It took me a little while to find something that I A, owned, and B, hadn't already read. And in the end, it landed on Beyond the Black Door. And this is another portal fantasy with an asexual main character, if I remember rightly. I can't remember much else about this. Further than that, again, I've heard really good things, again, from Hannah from Ladder M, if I remember rightly. I'm pretty sure she's read this and quite enjoyed it. I've had this on my TBR for a very long time either way, and I'm just very intrigued and really quite excited to get it off my TBR at last as well. And then my audiobook for the month is going to be one of the Alice Oseman books. I got a bundle of 3 of them very, very recently on Audible, and I'm not entirely sure which one I'm going to go for here. I think I'm just going to go for whichever one is calling to me at the time, but I'm going to be listening to one of these. As Heartstopper is coming out this month, and obviously I want to read more of Alice Oseman and find out more about everybody in this story and within, like, their universe, things like this. I've read the original Heartstopper comics, so I think it's time to give Alice Oseman's novels a go outside of her graphic novels, so I'm just going to be picking one of these. And then we have the Graphics-A-Thon TBR, because Graphics-A-Thon this time round is more of a challenge, less of a readathon, and that is you could pick any number that you wanted, and then you had to read that many graphic novels throughout the month of August. And someone said they were going to try and read a graphic novel every single day, so I'm going to be doing the same thing because I cannot resist a challenge. So I have a list of 31 graphic novels that I want to get through, so I'm just going to very quickly run through them all and give you a very quick synopsis of each one of them and move on, because otherwise I'm going to be here for a while. First things I have is Trials of X volumes 2 and 3. This one is the latest, or at least the latest I'm up to in the Krakoan era of the X-Men, where they have their own little island. They've just had their full first Hellfire Gala, where they've invited everybody along to have this big party showing off the power of the mutants, this kind of thing. And now in the morning afterwards, Scarlet Witch has turned up dead, and they're trying to figure out who's done it. You've got all the reactions of the Avengers, and then also like Quicksilver, who's Scarlet Witch's brother, Magneto, who raised Wanda as his own, things like this, and everybody trying to figure out who's actually done this, why it's happened, all of this kind of thing. I've loved everything to do with the Krakoan era of the X-Men so far, so very excited to continue on with this. I may try and read more of this series as well this month, but I only own these 2, so it depends on whether or not they go on sale or not, but either way, very excited to at least read these 2. I also have the first 2 volumes of The Wicked and the Divine. This will be a reread in terms of The Wicked and the Divine Volume 1, because I read this like last year for the last month-long Graphics-A-Thon, I think it was, and I've promptly forgotten everything about it. So I want to give it a quick reread before I go on to the second one. This one is about a bunch of gods who are reincarnated every few years or so. I can't remember how long it is. I think it's every 100 years or every 50 years, something like this. Once every few decades. They live for a couple of years on Earth with like loads of fame and fortune and this kind of thing, and then they die. I've heard amazing things about this series. I really enjoyed the first one, so I really want to continue on with this series, but to do that I need to reread the first one because I can't remember a thing. Then there's also all 3 volumes of Bitter Root. I read the second volume exactly a year ago in July, but I've forgotten everything from it, and also when I picked up volume 2 I couldn't remember what happened in volume 1, so what I'm going to do is just go through and reread the entire thing, refresh my memory of it, and then finish out the series as well, because I don't want to finish the series without remembering what happened in the previous books, because Otherwise, I'm not getting the full story, so I'm just going to run through the lot of them in one great big go. I also have 2 Shang-Chi books. The first one is Brothers and Sisters. Again, this is going to be a reread because I read this when the film came out and then I never continued on with the series onto Shang-Chi versus the Marvel Universe, so I want to give this a reread and this a read for the first time, and then maybe also go on to the 3rd volume, which I don't currently own. I may buy it, I don't know, I'll see how I feel. Either way, I do want to continue on with this series because I do remember really enjoying Brothers and Sisters. I just never got around to continuing on with the series, so what better time to do it than now. There's also Black Hammer, and this one is about a superhero team who have been trapped in a village which is sort of like the Twilight Zone. Again, I've owned this for years now and I haven't read it, so it's about time I got to it, and right now feels like the perfect time to do that because it's a month-long challenge. I needed to make up numbers, and I'm going to be hopefully finishing out a couple of series, so why not start a new one while I'm at it. There's also Demon Days, like I said before, and then there's also the Black, White and Blood series. Specifically, I'm going to be reading Elektra, Wolverine and Moon Knight, and these are far more adult, far more like bloodier stories to do with these characters. It's drawn specifically in Black, White and Red, hence Black, White and Blood, and I've heard again really good things about these. I've been really curious about them. They're done by quite a few different authors, so really excited to read all of these, check out these authors if I haven't read from them before, or just read more from them and just find out more about these characters. I'm always here for more of all of these characters, so again, this felt like the perfect time to read these. I also have Abe Sapien for a very similar reason. I read Hellboy like 4 years ago now, I think it was. Must have been, it was pre-pandemic. I remember that I was reading it outside of the house, and that I haven't done that since before the pandemic, so yeah, I read that then. I just haven't continued on, and I haven't read anything else from this world. And Abe Sapien, if you don't know who that is, he is a character from the Hellboy universe, and he is sort of like a humanoid, sentient, very clever fish, this kind of thing. Yeah, I just remember him from my childhood in the original Ron Perlman, Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies, and I loved his character alongside Hellboy. And I mean, it's about time I read this. I have owned it again for like 5 years now, and I haven't read it, so now feels like the perfect time to do that. I cannot remember precisely what this is about. I just know it's about Abe, and I just wanted to read more about Abe, so now seemed like the perfect time. There's also the Fantastic Four volumes 6, 7, 8 and 9. I think, yeah, 6, 7, 8 and 9, and this is from the Dan Slott series that I've been reading on and off for years now, and this is just about the Fantastic Four, and it just reminds me a lot of being a child and all the rest of it, because I grew up watching the Fantastic Four and loving the Fantastic Four with all of my heart and soul, and this is very sort of like cheesy, and that kind of like family will save the day and all the rest of it. We'll just do everything through the power of love and like our powers and all the rest of it, but we'll do it because we're a family, and this kind of thing. I find it really fun. It's really cheesy, really light, really happy. It just makes me happy, so I definitely want to continue on with this series and maybe not finish it out because I don't have the final 2 volumes, but at least make significant progress in it. Then if I'm going to be reading Fantastic Four, I also need to read the Empire event, which includes Road to Empire, Empire, Captain America and the Avengers, Empire, Fantastic Four, Empire, X-Men, and then also Lords of Empire. And this is a massive event involving the Kree-Skrull War, as well as Billy and Teddy. If you don't know who they are, Billy is the son of Scarlet Witch, otherwise known as the hero Wiccan, and his boyfriend, who then becomes his husband in the series, Teddy, who is a Kree-Skrull hybrid, and it's focusing all on them and this kind of thing. I've heard so many things about this. I just haven't read it yet because I've been trying to catch up with the Fantastic Four and then haven't gotten to that point within the Fantastic Four series, but I will be reading it for this readathon, so it's about time I read Empire as well. Then there's also something lighter on here, which is It's Jeff, and he is a land shark that was experimented on at some point by some villain in the Marvel Universe, and he can now walk on land, and it's just a series of very fun Friday funnies shorts about Jeff and his adventures throughout the Marvel Universe. universe, and I've seen some clips from this. It looks absolutely adorable and completely light-hearted, which is exactly what I'm going to need in between some of these larger comics and bigger events, and like in between reading like Death of Jane Lawrence and things like this. I know I'm going to need stuff like Jeff, so that is what I'm going to be reading as well. I'm also going to be finishing out the Rat Queen saga. I've been reading Rat Queens for years now. I blasted through the first like 6 volumes, I think it was, in the last month-long readathon as well, and I just haven't finished it because I don't want the series to end. To be perfectly honest, I really just don't want the series to end, but seeing as I started and got as far as possible, like as far as I did in the last readathon, I think now is the time to finish it out, so that's what I'm going to be doing. If you don't know what Rat Queens is, it is a series about mercenary women in a fantasy world. If you're fans of I Hate Fairyland and Deadpool, check this out because it's very similar in that sense of humour, that kind of thing. So really want to finish this out, if kind of don't want to because it just makes me smile, but I think it's about time I did that, because if I did that with every series I'd just never finish a series, and I need to start blasting through some of them, so I want to do that now. I then also have Spy X Family Volume 9. This is the latest one that my library has in this series, and this is following a family of a spy, an assassin and a mind-reading child. Only the spy and the assassin don't know that the other one is a spy or an assassin, and they don't know their child can read minds, but their mind-reader child knows everything. And this is such a fun series. I always end up smiling throughout reading this. It is brilliant. It's so light-hearted, so I cannot wait to read this latest volume. I'm just so excited for it. I literally put it on my holds as soon as I saw it on my library. I was like, I need this right now, and it's taking everything I have to wait until like Graphics-A-Thon to start, because I just want to read it now, but I am waiting very impatiently, but it's going to be my first read without doubt. And then finally there is Fence Volume 1. This one is about a school for people who fence, I think. I've heard just amazing things about it, to be honest, and it was available on my library, and I was like, well, I wanted something that was a bit like Heartstopper, and I want to carry on trying out like contemporary books and things like this, so that is what I'm doing with this. I have no idea further what it's about, further than like fencing, and I think there's some LGBTQI plus rep in here. I don't know much else. I've heard mixed things, I won't lie, but I really want to give it a go because I have heard still quite good things, and I have heard it compared to Heartstopper, and I like pairing what I'm reading with what I'm watching, so that's what I'm going to be trying to do here. I'm going to be trying to also give Fence a go and see what I think about another contemporary romance type YA thing, which is not usually my thing, but we'll see what happens. It's an experiment. It's definitely going to be an experiment. And then actually I forgot one, and that is Universe X. This is specifically part 2 that I own. I picked this up in a charity shop like 5 years ago now, and just haven't read it yet because I didn't own the other volumes. And then I remembered they're all on Marvel Unlimited, so I can read them all there. So I do want to give this a go. This is like a multiversal Marvel story, and I don't really know much else about it, to be honest. I think the villains are involved. Yeah, it's Mephisto and all the rest of it, who is the Marvel version of the devil. But it looks like this inside, and I've heard nothing about this actually, but it's just been intriguing me for a good few years now. So I think it's about time I read it. So I do want to give this a go. I may put it off because this is like the second volume, like I said, and then I've also got to read obviously the first one. Then there's also Marvel's X, and then also Paradise X, which is part of this big series. So I may put this off, I may not, I don't know. I'll see how I feel, I'll see how time goes. But I think that's why I'm going to leave this video, because I don't think there's anything else to say. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me which book I should start with, I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a zombie emoji down below to represent the necromancers. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all my social media fun to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which is currently filled with all things Secret Invasion, and will soon be filled with all things like Universe X and everything else, all linked down below so you can check it out. That's just Avalanche, never mind. I'll also leave a link as well down below to my Etsy store that sells bookish merch if you want to check it out, or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!